May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. And may you be happy. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease, and may you be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease, and may we be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. And may we be happy. I am filled with loving kindness. I am well. I am peaceful and at ease. And I am happy. I am filled with loving kindness. I am well. I am peaceful and at ease. I am happy. I am filled with loving kindness. I am well. I am peaceful and at ease, and I am happy. I am happy. I am happy.
Pushapin, unmute.
Good morning and welcome to this Sunday morning. Welcome, Sister Ashika. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
So today we are on the topic of purity and exploring humility. And just listening to the song, I was thinking, the whole idea that when there's love and kindness flowing through me, it means that, guess, it must be all inside of me. And so the image of humility always comes to me with that idea of a tree fully laden with fruit and its branches just hanging low, and so low that it almost looks like the tree is drooping, and everyone can take so naturally and easily without effort whatever fruit they want.
It's a very beautiful picture of a very abundant nature as well. The opposite of humility, we say, is arrogance. And we always associated that with someone who stands up and sort of has their nose in the air as a visual. And when we have nothing to offer anyone, even ourselves, I think that's the position we hold. We stay aloof. And purity is that quality that filters through, that allows us to be, I would use the word malleable. So there's a molding and a flexibility that happens with the self. And therefore that bowing nature, because of the nourishment that I have, sort of allows me to bow. And physically we see that in the tree. And people also use this analogy that when they see people who are they consider to be humble, they sort of bow to things, but they're not bowing to something lesser than. They're bowing to something greater than. And I was reflecting on, as you were saying, that when we bow, and we have to bow to the greatness within ourselves, and the song was obviously invoking this greatness within the self of peace, love, and humility that explodes out of it when I then cooperate with everything, because it started from me and then become may I and becomes I, and then it became a sharing. And humility gives cooperation, and it's another virtue that emerges, but it really feels this blooming of the essence. But Shuben, in being humble, many people feel that they lose themselves. And if we can explore today this, how humility is actually, when drawn from the source of divinity, of power, and bringing this guidance of what is an ultimate truth, how it allows us to really come into every space fully.
Yes, it's the difference is when I'm in a state of being humble, I'm not actually being used and abused, but actually I am standing my ground, and not actually standing my ground, but I'm in my full self-respect. I have blossomed to that point that nothing is in my way to allow what I have inside to come out. So, when it comes to this idea of, being used or abused, in the idea that why people say, you need to stand your ground, you need to be firm, you need to be assertive. So those kind of things, notice they all have this idea of protecting. We kind of like preserving something. So you stand up for something. You don't let injustice reign. So the whole idea is that I'm standing up for something. So you only stand up for something when you really feel you're defending something. And do you know, truth is something that can't be defended. And so there's a lovely idea, and I think this is something I find for my own self, a practice that comes with a lot of faith, because it's intrinsic in us to think that we don't want to be a walkover, and we want to and we think we're doing it for other people, that when we stand up, we're showing other people that you mustn't be taken for a ride or whatever it is. Yeah. And I'm going to share this. It's a very personal story. It's about my own sister, who in nature is my youngest sister, but much more quieter than I am. And so I used to always have this feeling that people take advantage of her. And because I'm a loudmouth, I just thought, I should just say something to kind of like defend her. And one day I thought about her in a different way, because she's also on the path of spirituality like I am. So then I thought to myself, if I have faith that spirituality develops one and gives one self-respect, then who do I think that I need to defend her? Can I not hold her in her own pure, authentic stage and know that she knows actually how to look after herself, and that I don't actually have to be her savior or her champion or her whatever? And it's quite a funny thing, because it takes a lot out of you to actually hold back and have faith and trust. One, in the goodness of the person you're trying to defend, to know that they have the power not to be abused, and hold this pure vision of them, because it takes a lot to actually see somebody's goodness, because you only think you can do it in a sense. And I'm so amazed when it's taken time, but when I see the power emerging, and in a way, there's such a lovely pride, not that I did something now to help people. So I'm not even taking any accolade, but the idea to know that when we can hold such a high vision for someone, that actually that's power. And that brings out their own greatness. So the ego in me will want to go and defend. But actually, just to know that I'm humbled by her own greatness, by her own goodness, and also humbled by the wisdom that is actually surrounding her, that she will go into her own power. So that's something I appreciated, that when we want to get somewhere in life, because I think for myself, I grew up in the era when we were in the tennis courts boycotting for equal rights, and very short of being thrown into prison because of not going to class. So that's maybe been my background of not keeping quiet, and it's been very difficult for me to actually not open my mouth and not say something, and I still quite easily blunder. But the more I actually stay quiet and stay in my fullness, and what I'm enjoying is that I keep myself in the company of the Supreme. So like I think about how the Supreme is really my guide, showing me how it's the power of silence that actually has made things happen. If we think about the Supreme in our physical dimension, there's no big thing that is actually pulling us or pushing us. When we think about that divine energy, it's always the subtle things that work. It's always the undergrounding, the underlining things. When magic happens, then we'll say, you know what? It's not explainable, but it just happened. And so I'm really learning that this is actually the only thing we can use as actually the gift that is being bestowed to us at this time, is to hold very close to this divine nature of being so faithful, having the faith in the goodness of others, having the faith in myself, having the faith that in this world only good will happen. Everything that happens, happens for benefit, and holding that true. And all of that kind of stuff is actually hiring our consciousness. We're working from much elevated consciousness where we don't even have physical proof, but we're coming from an energy that then can actually transform.
Wow.
And maybe
That's
just
really
one thing, just remember this beautiful image as I kind of thought about when that butterfly is in that cocoon of a caterpillar. It's completely engaged.
Yes.
Yes, and then what happens is that at some point, that very fragile little butterfly will be able to break through that cocoon. And the whole breaking process is actually what gives the wings strength to fly.
So in each, really beautiful when it comes to recognizing it, but I'm going to flip it around, the story about you and your sister, because for you to actually have recognized that in her, you've had to have the humility to recognize something in yourself. And I think that's the seed of purity, is that it resides within the self. And when it emerges, then I'm able to see the other in the same light. And Ushaben, I mean, that's really powerful of sharing that it's about that letting go. And when ego steps in, I don't let go. I get attached to how I think I need to mold somebody. And yet, purity in myself and belief in my own greatness is actually molding and creating an atmosphere that allows others to step into and be molded by that. And so to draw in the two powers of the fact that the energy of the elements that we've been speaking of as well, and draw in, we spoke of earth and the power of earth, then we drew in water as this element of purity. And when we think about a garden, and if it was just earth itself, it'd be pretty dry, just really very dry. And then when you have water coming in, you create something that becomes softer and malleable, that allows nourishment to happen and allows growth to happen. But there has to be a detachment as well, because the earth has to accept this water and sort of allow it to permeate itself. So one can be very powerful, very strong, and stand up for whatever. But unless that purity comes in, that water, that softness, that gentleness, and it's about the truth. So it seems as if truth is the water that sort of softens this groundingness of us and allows growth to happen. And just that visual of that, it becomes childlike, because you think about when you were a kid and if you were playing outside in the mud, generally there was, to get mud, you have to have the earth, you got to have the sand and dust and dirt, and you got water. And when you play in that, it brings a sense of another level of enjoyment and appreciation, and a great acceptance of the greatness within the self. So drawing this energy further in, it seems as if that for us to become more flexible in our outlook, flexible in our ability, our own ability to accept ourselves as being part of the divine and being the child of the divine, is a magical key and a secret that we know. It's an internal secret that allows us to move forward and be able to mold and shift ourselves in a different environment, yet not changing the very essence of ourselves. And you can share more on how we just draw this on every single moment, and maybe another example will come to mind, but something that inspires us to look at really shifting ourselves to accepting the greatness within the self.
You know, sometimes we work on the head, or sometimes we work with the heart. And those of us who, I mean, I think I'm in between, not exactly head and heart. But what I find is that most of the times I know something, but I don't think I can express it as much as I know it. And so the intuition can be very, very loud. And for me, I'm thinking, you know, we've been speaking about child, but I wanted to bring this idea of using the divine as a guide, you know, the supreme preceptor. And this is actually why in the beginning, when we were talking about a higher level of consciousness, where we can't look at the obvious anymore, we actually have to work with something that is almost like an unknown, but known because it's part of the fiber of my being. Like, for example, if I regard myself to be part of this divine creation, then even though if I look in my behavior and I can't see that I'm really being very peaceful or loving, but if I'm coming from that heritage of divinity, then peace and love exist in me. And that's the level I'm trying to talk about, is that we just need to know more than actually what we see. And so in this instance with the divine, you know, it's a given that in our world, every single soul will reach that space where they will return to their own goodness. That's the faith I have. And the thing what I'm studying, this path I'm following, is that it doesn't matter what religion you come from, which kind of creed, every soul is destined to return back to its neutral point and come to that point. So it's so nice to look at the world. I'm using the word so nice, but what the feeling is that it's like a liberation to actually know inside that no matter where we're going as a humanity, we're going to come to that point where we each will be safe. And so for me to first of all hold that vision of everyone, if I look at somebody and think that this person is doing all of these things to destroy the earth, and I'm throwing that negative energy to that soul, I'm further encouraging that soul to operate on that vibration. So it's actually a call for all of us to shift our consciousness, to embed our thinking in this elevated thinking of the good in everyone, and be guided by that divinity that we also are there because of the grace of God. And we can actually hold that powerful consciousness and then see how a shift, a paradigm shift comes through. For me, there's a clarity that the way the world is at the moment is actually a replication of the consciousness within mankind. So we can say because of climate change, the climatic conditions are gone haywire, or there's lots of fights and quarrel, there's a lot of corruption. We're looking at all the physical manifestation. But if each one of us took time and noticed the kind of corruption in our own consciousness, the weakness in our own thinking, the disbelief in each other that we hold inside of ourselves. And that's why it's all manifesting outside. So it's time for us to step into our greatness. And you know, Mandela said it very powerfully. He said it's very easy to know the weaknesses, but to actually recognize who you really are and step up in your goodness means we can't make excuses anymore.
Exactly.
We actually have to step up and say, right, change is going to begin with me. And so really a calling on to for all of us to really hold that powerful vision for myself. And then as I amplify my own consciousness, it's almost like I become a soul that can draw the power for others as well, without actually saying a word. So you know how we say you hold a space. I feel that this is what humility is about. In your home, your mother is that sometimes that being that just holds the space, lets everybody say what they want, whatever it is, but keeps it all together. So we all have a responsibility. And I feel no matter how few of us they are, it doesn't take a lot of people. It just even takes one. They say one little incense stick, you burn it and you can change the fragrance of the whole room. And it's almost that kind of greatness is required for us. So the practice that I'm sort of engaging in is that, can I first of all hold a very elevated, subtle, go with your gut feeling and go with that inner knowing, and then project that beautiful consciousness of knowing the goodness in everyone intuitively. Let me only see the most elevated.
That's right. So the secret to this and the truth in that is that just as I am on a journey, so is everyone else. But if I give myself permission to be in this space, I, by default mode, give everyone else permission to step in this place. So, and I'm seeing it like a blueprint of every single being that's on this planet, that this soul energy has a beautiful blueprint that is the same for every single one of us. And all the divine is doing is, when we reconnect, is reminding us of that blueprint. Because if we lose the blueprint, we sort of create little additions and get covered by that. But it's not innate. And what we're asking for and what you're bringing up in each one of us is that innateness needs to come back in. And that innateness is something that is true for every single one of us. And therefore, there is no need to sort of hold any sort of place of trying to help someone else where I can't help myself first. And I won't be able to do that. So if there's something else that you want to share, because I want to share an experiment today, because you triggered a thought about that this inherent quality and this transformation that happens. And purity is, I feel, most probably the secret part of a quality that where we talk about power, we talk about love, we talk about peace in the world a lot. But I don't think enough is said about purity. And it seems to be holding like a trigger point at this moment. So if you want to share something before I share an experiment.
So, we started off by saying that, we must not defend this whole idea of purity. So when you realize the goodness in everyone, then you almost disarm that whole feeling. And, water has that effect, it kind of just lets everything separate and find its space. So it's almost like when we stop clinging onto everyone, holding onto them to make them into something, and we just let them be and loosen up in a sense, then each one will have the space to actually come into their own power. And so purity definitely is the definition where there's no mixture. So for all of us to stand on our own, not to actually be supported by anything but our own being. And when we all get to that point, that sovereignty is really the height of purity. And in that is liberation and attainment for everyone. So those will be my closing thoughts. And yes, please take us on our journey.
Yeah, so today, before we start like sort of settling in, I'm going to give most probably a challenge out to each one of us to experiment and really understand how we are impacting, and we're doing it through the thought, because we are trying to shift and change the thought that we hold. And so if you use onions in your home, and if you don't, buy 3 at least, because this experiment allows you to see something very practically. And there are other means that you can do. It might take a little longer, but I think at least for the next 3 days, we'll be able to see some change. We can start tomorrow, but for today, get 3 clear glasses. You would fill each of them with water from the same source. If you're using your kitchen tap, fill them up. And then with 3 onions, you would notice at the bottom of an onion, it springs out roots, and they're pretty dry. But put it into a glass, like how sometimes you plant an avo on the top. Place it so it doesn't sink, first of all, on the top, and let the roots just touch the water. Keep these 3 glasses in a place where you will not touch it or interfere with it. It will not be moved, at least for the next 3 days. To the first glass that you place, to that glass there, you just send a lot of good wishes. And you can have one thought: I send you good wishes. That's all. You can say it 3 times, 4 times, whatever you do, be consistent and do it for the next 3 days the same way. The middle glass, ignore it. Okay. The third one, I have bad wishes for you. Okay. That's all. If you said that 3 times, you say it 3 times to the other one. Now you're saying, and I'm using the word saying, but you're not verbalizing it, you're thinking it. So with your mind, with your thought, you would say, I send you good wishes, I send you good wishes, I send you good wishes. Just ignore the one. You're coming here, and in your thought, you're saying, I'm sending you bad wishes, I send you bad wishes, I send you bad wishes. When you start the experiment, take a picture, okay? And every day that you do this, do it about the same time. You can do it once or twice if you want to, but stay consistent with your experiment and take a picture, but observe what starts happening, okay? And it'd be lovely to tell you what you expect, but you can theorize yourself and maybe share your theory on the WhatsApp group if you want to, but share your own theory to yourself, what you're expecting to see. And there's a power and there's a magic that happens here. So let us now just settle in a bit and allow ourselves to gently focus on what we've heard and move into a space of exploring this. So allow myself just this time and space to be very centered. And in the stillness, I draw in and move further and deeper inward. And as I move inward, a softness and a kindness and a flow, a current of truth allows me to float. I find myself blooming upward, just as a point of tiny, tiny light. And I find myself seated in front of the ultimate divine truth, the Supreme Being. And today, he holds a blueprint of myself. But I notice there's a lot more. And as I look at this, I see the same things that are innately within me that make me who I am. That every other soul has the same blueprint. And the beauty arises because there's an innate sense we are the same. We express ourselves differently, but at the core, we are the same. A feeling inside of me rises of great cooperation. Cooperation with myself to stay true to this. And it emerges cooperation. As I gently allow myself to settle back into this physical body, holding this blueprint, my mind settles, allowing the roots to go deeper, drawing in the nourishment. Filled, I allow myself to bloom, petal by petal, sharing my greatness for all to see, feel, and experience. And I see how this gives permission to everyone else to do the same. It is humility. I acknowledge my path of truth, and I'm guided by the currents that allow me to flow over, under, around all obstacles that come by, never changing my direction. One direction, the truth. I resonate, and peace and harmony blooms all around me. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Today, let me practice this virtue of humility with this powerful awareness, purity guiding me to be humble. I am the living bud which blooms with the acceptance of my divine nature, knowing that there is a time and place in the drama of life for everything. Being this allows me to let go, that is allowing growth, surrender to the cycle of life and the divine truth, remain true to my inherent divine nature. The bud which blooms must fade away, yet its beauty and fragrance is long remembered. So today, as I walk through life, let me remember the power inside of myself and have the patience to allow it to emerge, but do the same with everyone else that you come into contact with. And when you come across the color orange, pause, take a deep breath and let your beauty shine. Om Shanti. Have a beautiful day.